Okay, recorder is on. Go for it.
Hi, this is Bruce Shooter from the Mental Health Warrior Program, which can be found at bruceshooter.com. I'm here on Vroom Vroom Veer for, yes, a third time. Can't wait to talk to Jeff Smith, and we're going to even still talk about some new stuff here and get you excited about becoming a mental health warrior.
Whoop, whoop. All right. Yeah, I think they're getting better. Good job.
Thank you.
All right, let me hit stop. I'll be right back.
Okay.
Are you ready to thoughtfully steer away from your revved up, frenzied, and far too often scripted life? Then welcome to Vroom Vroom Veer with Jeff Smith, where he guides you down the road differently traveled by sharing unique experiences with guests who have managed to shift away from a life stuck on cruise control and veered their way into a more authentic and fulfilling one in all sorts of interesting and kind of remarkable ways. Get ready to Vroom Vroom Veer with your differently traveled road chauffeur, Jeff Smith.
Regan Caruthers. Thank you so much for being on Vroom Vroom Veer and welcome to the show. How's it going?
It's going good. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here. So you are at regancaruthers.com. So talk a little bit about what you're most excited about in your business and your life today.
Well, right now I'm most excited about the weather. I love spring. It's so hopeful.
Okay.
And my property is so alive, and I love beginning the mornings with my Merlin app and my coffee, and it takes in all the bird songs and lets me know who's who.
Yeah.
So I'm excited about that. Excited to just, get the word out about my book, Tragic Magic, and the mess and the redemption and the hope of my story.
Okay, great.
And, as it relates to my business, most of what I do as an act of service.
Okay.
So yeah, been there, done that in terms of, my business career. And
Got it.
At this stage of life, it's more
It's the
about
give back.
it's being of service. So
That's amazing.
I teach yoga as an act of service in my community. I teach yoga to our local seniors at our senior center.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, I have a 94-year-old student.
I had a yoga class when I was in the Los Angeles area on the Air Force Base in San Pedro.
Oh,
and
cool.
We had a 90-something showing up to our yoga classes there because they were all free. And, I don't know if he was retired or how he was there, but he was there. And he showed up on a regular basis. He usually did all of the yoga moves in a chair. But that's okay. He modified it and he got through it. And it was great.
Yeah, it's very inspiring.
Yeah.
And, when working with the seniors, you get to see just the direct result of people that have either cared for themselves
Or not.
over their life or not.
Or not. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's inspiring and it's a bit of a check-in. For me, it's like, wow, I'm glad I do what I do every day.
Yeah.
Maybe,
Yeah.
I'll still be able to do the splits in my 80s. We'll see.
You should. Yes. That's the thing. Like I've been tossing around a couple of little phrases that help me stay on track as far as health and self-care and self-love. And one of the things that I keep saying to myself is the effort is the reward, right? And, it's like there's more effort. It takes more effort to eat a healthy diet and to move your body, right? Mm-hmm. But that's the reward. Doing it is the reward. You could also say feeling better and feeling healthy is also the reward, but it's sort of built in. Like as you're taking a long walk, I start feeling better, right?
Right.
Yeah, I've been getting, I don't know if you've ever done this, but it's a relatively old new thing to me of doing this hot shower, then a cold shower.
Oh, yeah, that's really good for circulation to do, for sure.
There's tons of benefits, right?
Yeah.
But when you first start doing the cold part, it's shocking and scary and you don't really kind of want to do it. But now I've turned the corner and I'm actually enjoying the cold part too. just because
Well,
I'm telling myself all the good things that come with it. Like I can tell when I don't do it,
Well, and I think, part of the theme in my book and just in how I live my life now, not always, is just how important being disciplined is.
Totally. Yes. Yeah.
Discipline and practice. And, there's a lot of spiritual teachers out there that, don't emphasize that and act like it's easy and, oh, just do these 3 things and these 3 things will happen. I mean, what a bunch of BS. So,
There is effort. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's about doing it when you don't want to.
Totally. Yes.
Right? It's not motivation. Motivation's like, oh, I'm motivated.
Yeah.
Discipline's like, oh, wow, I don't really want to do this, but I'm going to. Yeah.
Totally. We can talk more about all of those things, but like motivation is one of those weird things that like if you're lonely and depressed, it's almost like an absence of motivation, right? Mm-hmm. It's like, you don't want to do anything, right? It's like a struggle to get out of bed. Having gone through a depression myself, I know what that was. It's like, yeah, I know I have to get up and do stuff, but it's like, I don't want to do anything, right? Especially being alone. Like I could take vacations, like go hang out with friends. That was like an island of okay. Cause I had to pretend to be okay. And it's sort of like fake it till you make it. I guess I'm okay now until I'm alone again. Yeah, I know. Depression is a weird thing, but that's one of my new definitions of depression is just like this lack of motivation. But you can get it back. You can definitely get it back. Like eating right, exercising, getting good light and air, that all helps. And that cold water, the hot water, cold water, that improves mood in an amazing way, right? So anyway, it's always good to like focus on physical and effort when you don't know what else to do. That's like a touchstone for me too.
Well, I think too, being grateful, right?
Totally.
Like practicing gratitude.
Totally.
Because even in our darkest hour, there's something, even if it's ice cream, like I don't care what it is,
right? Whatever.
But
yes,
connecting to any kind of elevated emotion through an emotional memory of it, right?
Right.
That's a really important thing to do.
Totally. Okay. So I was going to say, same on my morning meditation out in my backyard. Birds were growing crazy. And the smells, oh my goodness, the smells, like it's very rare that you get an intense smell situation in the desert, but it's been it's been raining, right, for like 3 days or 4 days here in Vegas. So usually my backyard has a pleasant smell in the morning in spring, right? But this was sort of like that smell and the bird song on 11, because everybody's really happy it's not raining and all the flowers are like in, hey, there's water, let's do this thing. Mode.
Well, we've had so much rain and I love to walk barefoot in my woods. So I've
nice.
got about 2 acres of open lawn with trees.
Wow. Yeah.
But then the rest is just forested.
Very grounding. Yeah.
Oh my God, I love it so much.
Yeah.
And I've got all these native honeysuckles like all over the woods.
Oh my goodness. Ugh, it's honeysuckle. So sweet.
So fragrant.
Yeah. When I go for my walks, there's like tons of jasmine in the neighborhood.
Oh, I love jasmine.
So after this, I'm going out for a walk because I can't miss the jasmine after a rainy day. Yeah.
Jasmine's amazing.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love nature.
Did that way and I try to bring like childlike wonder to it. Like if I were 9 years old again, because I spent so much time in the woods growing up, it was like my safe haven, and just how miraculous it is.
Totally.
And it's always changing, right? There's nothing static about it.
Right.
And all these different stages of life are represented. The new growth of a wildflower in the decaying wood. I don't know.
The circle.
I can talk about this all day.
Me too.
I just love it so
have
much.
one of my earliest memories of childhood was like, and it's not like a one day memory. It was like any day where I wake up and it's maybe like we're not having school that day for whatever reason. It's like summer, right? And we're off and the weather's amazing. and it's early in the morning, and I just get outside and I walk, and I'm like, okay, let's go find somebody to play with, right? Whenever I have one of those mornings again, I'm transported there in my brain. I'm like, the 4-year-old moment. Something to be grateful for right there.
Well, I'm lucky in that my best friend was my best friend beginning at the age of 11, and I'm
Wow.
almost 60.
Yeah.
So
Congratulations. That's amazing.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
so anytime we're together, which is not as often as I'd like,
Sure.
but it brings you back, right?
Yeah.
Like you feel younger together.
Yes.
Because you were young
Yeah.
together.
Yeah,
It's such a gift.
I have a friend, probably one of my best friends, and I've known him since before kindergarten.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah. Isn't that awesome?
so awesome.
Yeah. So
In
we
fact,
go all the way back. Yeah.
most of my classmates from the magical grade school I attended are still in my life. We're still connected via social. I just heard from my dear friends commenting on one of my Instagram videos saying,
wow.
oh my God. Yeah. And I was just like, oh,
Yeah.
hush, Mom, I love you.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. He's a physician in St. Louis. Anyway.
Sounds like you had an amazing childhood, though.
Oh, no, I did not.
Oh, well, there you go. Let's get into it.
Oh, I mean, amazing. Yes.
You had moments of amazing.
There were amazing aspects of my childhood for sure. But my mother diagnosed herself. She was clairvoyant. Diagnosed herself in 61 as a manic depressive.
Okay.
Before it was really in the clinical vernacular. So my life with her was filled with contrast, as you might imagine.
Yes.
She was the greatest love I've known. I mean, what she could radiate is unlike a love I've ever known. And the opposites ran through her.
Okay.
So that was hard. And she made, pretty tragic decisions from that place of dysregulation. But one of the best decisions she made was to enroll me at the age of 3 in a school where I was first introduced meditation. So we meditated every day.
Wow.
We did.
When you were 3.
Yeah, we
Amazing.
did Tai Chi every day. We began the day in devotional song, talking about the power of conscious thought and love. And
Wow.
Maxwell Maltz, I don't know if you know him.
No.
He basically birthed the positive psychology movement.
Okay.
In the 1960s, he wrote a groundbreaking book called Psycho-Cybernetics. And he was a plastic surgeon.
Title.
He was a plastic surgeon.
Okay.
And, he would help people with, real disfigurement. And he noticed after some patients went to live, really full lives and had healthy self-esteem and healthy self-concept. And others, it didn't matter at all that he had,
Changed their fate.
changed. Yeah. And he's like, well, why is that?
Right.
And so he began to research it and, kind of decided that, wow, it's what you tell yourself. It's the story
Totally.
you tell yourself that determines the quality of your experience.
Right.
So anyway, he was on the board of my grade school. And so the pedagogy, a lot of what we experienced in a day was, because of him.
Yeah.
And
what a magical experience.
yeah,
Right?
I mean, we would photograph our energy field with Carillion film and
Wow. Wow.
But I also learned algebra at 8, and we read Shakespeare, and
that's great. Wow. That's
yeah.
Now that sounds
So-
amazing.
Yeah, and it was my safe haven, from my turbulent home.
So
but
school was like the safe place, and then home was the
not so safe.
occasionally scary. Right.
Yeah,
Occasionally
yeah.
awesome, occasionally scary.
Well, yeah. I mean,
mostly
her
scary.
partner. She met her partner after she and my dad divorced in a mental hospital.
Okay.
Like not a great
No.
place. Yeah. So anyway, I was very sensitive like she. I could hear what other people were thinking. You don't want to have that kind of access, let me tell you. And I would see things. There was a lot of dark energy, for lack of a better word, in my home. And I would see things that really scared me. And so at the age of 9, I screamed out loud for it all to stop.
Wow.
And the veil came down. And that was, less of a load on my system. But, it also caused some disconnection
For sure.
from the divine and from
Right.
my own sense of my divinity.
Right.
And wasn't until 27. So I should say, when I commanded it out all for it to stop, it was in response to this, for lack of a better word, man, that wasn't a man. I mean, he was an entity that often looked, kind of demonic. And he scared me. He was sitting on top of my washing machine. I know this sounds nuts, but it's the God honest truth. And so I yelled out loud for it to stop in response to him. Okay, fast forward. I'm 27, a junior executive in the publishing industry at a national sales meeting. And there was a lot of dysfunction in my company. And, I was pretty courageous and outspoken about it. So maybe that was part of, the reason why what I'm about to describe happened. But this one night, I just wanted a decent night's sleep. I wasn't spiritual. I didn't have a practice.
Okay.
I was completely unconscious of the wisdom traditions and the things that I had learned as a kid. None of that was running in my system. I thought corporate ascension would lead to safety. Anyway, so on this fateful night, in the middle of the night, I woke up from a deep sleep. And before I opened my eyes, I felt terror, just like I used to as a kid. I mean, terror I don't have words for. And I opened my eyes, and there he is, same entity, standing on the end of my bed, looking at me. And I sat up and I looked at him and said, "Oh, it's only you. I'm not afraid of you." And I went back to sleep.
Nice. Wow.
And when I woke up the next morning, all I could feel was the love of God and oneness, and like forgiveness was just automatically there in terms of my stepdad, who, was incredibly abusive. And I just had direct access to God, and it lasted about 3 years and changed my life and changed my path.
That's a pretty big veer. So let's talk about like the ripples of that, those 3 years of, so you're climbing the corporate ladder, you said. And
I was 27.
At 27, so you're probably like midway up. I don't know. Where were you on the ladder? Just give us a perspective.
I don't know. I was managing $12 million in revenue.
Okay.
The publishing industry is quite hierarchical. There's lots of levels. So
Okay. Gotcha.
Probably just beginning.
Okay. All right.
But I did have access to company leadership and, all that.
You weren't on the first rung, but you were nowhere near the top, as you said.
Oh, no.
Right. Somewhere in the middle, but towards the beginning. Okay.
Yeah, I was.
But making good money. You've got all the benefits of playing it safe, right? You've got insurance and all the bennies, right? There you go.
Company car.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah. Anyway, everything changed after that. It became a new reference point. And even though that quality of consciousness faded in time, right?
Particularly as it does. Yes.
And I didn't have a disciplined practice.
Right.
At that time. But a few years later, I found myself, leading retreats and programs for the Heart Math Institute. I moved to the Santa Cruz Mountains. And, what I will say, kind of post-awakening, part of it was a little like Luke Skywalker in the good Star Wars movies. The first
Yeah.
When he's training to be a Jedi, right?
Right.
In these dark portals.
Sure.
And it's really about, can you hold the light
right
in the presence of darkness?
Right.
That's what he was learning how to do. Right. Well, I was being trained to be a Jedi as well. And
Aren't we
so,
all? Right. Maybe not.
yeah,
Well, right.
lots of terrifying things happened to me at night.
Okay.
And what I learned, and there's no like post awakening.
There's no book about what to do when you see something scary.
No, there's no
Right.
post awakening handbook.
There's
Maybe
not. No.
maybe I should write one, but
Yeah.
but what
And
I
if there
learned,
were, it would. You remember the movie Beetlejuice?
I never saw Beetlejuice.
Oh, you should go back and read Beetlejuice. So after mom and dad die in Beetlejuice, they find this book. It says, handbook for the recently deceased. And Alec Baldwin says, I can't understand this book. It's written like stereo instructions. It didn't make any sense to them. Right. So there was a book that made no sense.
Yeah. Well, anyway,
They
what
didn't have the vocabulary, I guess.
what I learned in time, and it took time, was to be able to radiate love
Okay. That
to
helps.
these demonic visitors.
Right.
And once I was able to do that, they stopped visiting.
Yeah, that's usually how that works. Right. Like it's part of the shadow work that, a lot of people avoid altogether, right? It's very scary.
Well, and a lot of spiritual teachers, particularly ones that are popular, the New York Times bestsellers,
Right. They don't want to look at the dark
they
side.
don't talk about it.
Right.
They act as if they have no shadow and nothing that they're working on.
Right.
So it's like, hey, run.
That's okay. Exactly. It's okay because they need to keep doing that because that way we know who they are.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm not that kind of teacher.
Right. I get it. Okay.
No.
So let's like go back a little bit and talk about what you did like in college and just to get if there's any stories of like opportunities that maybe would have gone one way or the other, but you kept on this track. Did that happen at all?
Well, what I will say, because my home life was so chaotic and not very comfortable to be in,
Right.
my strategy was to be anywhere else.
Okay.
And so, in my grade school, there was no like grade level or grades. Everything was customized, but all my peers went on to the Ivy Leagues. We all, from Forsyth, most of us went to John Burroughs, which is, one of the best private secondary schools in the country.
Wow.
But again, I didn't have the luxury to be studious in a way. Like I was trying to survive.
Wow.
And so
Okay.
when I look back at all of that, while I don't want any of it to be different, what I do know, because I know how smart I was then and still am, that had I had a stable home life, that whole trajectory would have been different.
Sure.
So, in college, I went to a state school
Right. Okay.
here in Missouri, University of Missouri. Fell in love, married young at 23. Because again, what was running unconsciously was this desire to, as quickly as I could, establish my own adult life on my own terms, right?
it.
What I
Get out of
didn't
that house and that situation. Yeah.
Yeah, but what I didn't realize and not, having yet done any work and really heal from what I had known. So of course, that first marriage would be a reflection of
Sure.
my past,
Yeah.
And while
It's
he
like
was
you're grasping for coping mechanisms, maybe.
unconsciously,
Right.
and I loved him and I still love him, even though we are long divorced and I'm remarried. So, a lot of my young life was seeking exits through,
Right.
trying to alter my state through alcohol or marijuana, or
Right.
loved my cigarettes. Those were fantastic.
Yeah.
Loved every single one of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so post awakening, and it took me, God, to my mid 40s, I would say,
Wow.
to take all that I had known and the exceptionality of the spiritual education I had received, so young, my
Right.
time at Art Math. Yeah, but to weave all of that into my own practice that I showed up for
Okay.
in a disciplined way. And once I did that, then the ease and the comfort, the stability that I had always sought, I was able to create as a reflection of my own healing.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and that's why I wrote the book, to share, to share the mess and to share these amazing peak experiences that I had known, and how ultimately learning how to create disciplined inner conditions to hear divine guidance, right? Have the courage, once guided, to act upon that guidance, right? Anyway, all of that literally changed, saved my life. So, yeah, there's that.
It's hard. There is something about being human that thinks there's a thing you should do, right? Like that, you call it divine guidance. Yeah, I'll take that. Like you hear it and you go, oh, I can't do that. Like there's always that voice of dissent saying like, geez, that sounds really hard. Who would I be if I did that? Right? You start like just questioning, at least I do. Like,
Yeah, I don't.
you don't. No.
I don't.
You don't. Did you before? Maybe pre-awakening self.
I had there's one pivotal moment, right? So even though I had commanded it all to stop and, I wasn't as connected, right, during that block of time, but my intuition was still present. And
Okay.
there's the moment, I'm 14, and I'm driving with my mother to the orthodontist. Had braces twice. That was a big fat,
real braces, not the
big fat drag. Oh yeah, with
yeah.
the bands, and
Yeah,
then
yeah.
you go to get them tightened, and there's
metal
all these,
mouth. Yes.
Yeah,
You get
yeah,
all
exactly.
kinds of and then there's headgear. Yeah, lovely.
Yeah, all that. So anyway, it was quiet in the car as Mom and I were driving. Which, if you knew my mother, that's a miracle in and of itself.
Right.
I don't know why it was
Rare,
quiet.
grateful. Right. Yes.
But I'm staring out the window, and this voice within my heart says, "You need to repeat the 9th grade." And I just knew the truth of it. So I was about 2 years ahead of myself, again, because of my grade school and going at your own pace got
Wow.
me ahead.
Yeah.
And, at 14, I hadn't yet physically developed. I was about 3 feet tall. I mean, I'm sure I was a little taller than that, but
You felt 3 feet tall. Yes.
yeah, I was
Okay.
bullied.
You
Anyway.
physically maybe weren't ready for.
Well, and yeah, it was just, school wasn't safe, right? I mean, school had been safe, and now junior high was incredibly unsafe. I was bullied. It was awful.
Yeah.
And so, in receiving that guidance, I just knew the truth of it. And I said to my mother immediately, "Mom, I need to repeat the 9th grade." And she said in response, "Well, honey, I don't know a thing about that, but you have my full support."
Wow.
And so then I found myself about, I don't know, a couple of weeks later presenting
Yeah.
to the Board of Education of Parkway School District, making my case because there was no mechanism to allow a straight A student to be held back.
Right.
So I made the social emotional case and they let me.
Wow.
And it was a turning point in my adolescent life. So I had that.
Talk to me. Just don't get into the weeds. But what were the major sort of like arguing points? Like, I'm a little too far ahead of my peers. Is that where you were going? Or
I don't have any memory of what I said, but I'm sure I was fantastic.
yeah, you were very eloquent.
Yeah, because
Wow. That's
that
amazing.
second, ninth grade, I worked for the administration for a
Okay.
few hours.
Right.
They gave me all lunch hours. So that killed another 2 hours in my day. My mother made me like a big grocery bag, a paper bag.
Yeah.
That was my lunch box because,
Wow. Yeah.
I had a lot of lunch hours. But that
Okay.
gave me an opportunity to socialize
Okay.
and um,
So you were there, but you weren't really going to class.
no, I took all electives.
Wow.
Yeah, I got to be a cheerleader
You
again, and that was
basically get a like a you've been working so hard now. Here's a vacation year of school, a little bit.
exactly.
That's
Yeah,
great. Wow.
yeah,
Good for
and
you.
I was prioritizing
You deserved it.
social ascendancy. I needed safe places to be. Sleepovers
Okay.
were my strategy.
Wow.
So yeah. Anyway, I was popular and was invited to parties, and yeah, it was a great year, 1982.
Wow.
One of the better years
Wow.
for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, in sharing all that, what it gave me was this knowing of what the felt sense of that quality of guidance is, like what it feels
You knew
like.
who that voice was. That voice wasn't your internal dialogue. That voice wasn't bad advice. That was the one that you knew. You just knew. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And so later,
That still quiet voice.
yeah, I
Yes.
just know I know what it sounds like. There's an audible quality to it.
Okay.
And what I will also say to help your, listeners, it's very matter of fact.
Right. It's
So-
not
so it's-
grandiose. It's not like Moses burning bush kind of scenario. It's just very much
No,
like it's like
and
a buddy.
it's emotionally very neutral. It's
Right.
so neutral. So fast forward, now it's December of 2021. I'm in Joshua Tree, which is in the high desert
Yep.
outside of Palm Springs,
Yep.
to work on my book because we're still locked down.
Okay.
Gavin Newsom and his progressive policies, it was downright dystopian, California's response to COVID. But anyway, and I just needed to get the heck out of the house
You
to
couldn't
try to
leave the house at all? How was it like?
No, and if you wanted to eat out at a restaurant, you had to have proof of vaccination.
Okay.
And one of, anyway, the guidance at that time was no, do not. And I didn't.
I've heard this before. There was a lot of people like not wanting to get vaccinated for various reasons. Yeah, I get it.
Well, I was told by
Yeah, yeah.
by my guides. But anyway, so I'm in Joshua's Tree trying to get some writing done. And every time I would sit down to write, I would meditate and pray. And I had a specific ritual to kind of create the energetic conditions for the writing. And in this fateful evening, the voice says, "You must urgently move home."
Wow.
And that was it.
Very matter of fact.
And home was
Urgently. Wow.
but no fear in the message, even though urgent was
Yeah.
used.
Just
right?
don't. Yeah. Like not. This isn't like a later thing. This is more of a now thing.
It's a now thing.
It's a now thing. Yes.
And I knew the truth of it. So I come out of meditation. I check my phone to see if I have enough bars to make a phone call because I'm literally in the middle of nowhere.
Right.
And I call a friend in St. Louis who had recently changed careers to become a real estate agent. And I said, Andrea, God says I have to urgently move home, and I do what I'm told. So I literally flew out of Palm Springs the following morning. I called my husband, told him, what I had been told. He's like, well, I'm not getting in the way of that. I just want to be with you. I don't care where we are.
Oh wow. That's
Which
nice.
was
yeah.
a remarkable response. And, I get to St. Louis the following day, but it just doesn't feel resonant. I'm like, really? I don't think this is where I'm supposed to be.
Not
and then
not
again-
quite home yet. Okay.
And then in meditation, the voice says Franklin County. And I literally don't know what that means. And I said to Andrea, I said, I'm supposed to live in Franklin County. So that's about an hour west of the city of St. Louis. And I
Okay.
live in a small town called Washington. And the little historic part of town is right on the banks of the Missouri River. It's adorable. It's like Mayberry here.
Okay.
And anyway, so we broaden the search, and I see the home on the MLS, and it looks like, wow, that really looks good. But nothing in the description says anything about it having its own water. And after being in a drought for so long in California,
Right.
I had $400 water bills. Anyway, it's like, I don't want to do that. And I think water's going to matter. But anyway, it checks so many of the other boxes. I said to Andrea, let's go see it anyway. You can't
Okay.
ever.
Okay. Okay.
So we get here, and Dale, the owner at the time, comes up one of the driveways. There's many. From what is now my yoga center. It was a big garage. And he comes up the driveway in a golf cart. And he's smiling because I'm a California buyer, right? He's seeing
Ching,
money.
ching, ching.
Yeah, he's seeing money. And he comes up the driveway. And I think I've waved, but I certainly haven't said anything. And he just looks at me and he says, "Oh, young lady, I should let you know we have a geothermal well here."
Geothermal well.
And I
My
just knew in that
goodness.
moment that was God, right?
Yeah.
And I just knew, okay, I found my house. I didn't even have to go in. I mean, I just knew in my heart this is where I was supposed to
didn't
be.
even know those existed in Missouri, whatever you want to say. Wow. So you have a
Yes.
hot spring on your property.
So that's exciting.
Does that cost
Yeah.
extra? Like in Japan, if you have to pay for that. No, it doesn't. Yeah, it's crazy. Like
I don't
in
know. It's
Japan,
here.
if you happen to have a hot spring on your property, there's this whole thing that you have to like get it registered and pay extra. There's tax. It's like this whole thing, right?
Oh.
Yeah, but
Well,
good for you.
here-
You're in Missouri.
Here in unincorporated Franklin County, there's
Yes.
not a lot of rules.
Right,
So-
right.
And we were locked down here for 2 weeks during
Okay.
COVID, and they didn't get any sicker. But anyway, that's a whole other podcast. So I, I'm told in December to urgently move home, and I live on the beach, on Monterey Bay,
Okay.
in a beautiful home in a gorgeous kind of resort neighborhood. So imagine my community or my own children, letting them know that no, God wants us to move to rural Missouri. I mean, they think I'm cuckoo as Cocoa Puffs.
Right.
We get here. I'm teaching yoga as an active service on my back lawn while I'm getting this big 3,000 square foot garage renovated for my spiritual, or what I like to call, come work on your shit center.
I love it. That's the best. Yes. Please call it that in the book. I want to see that in the brochure.
No, it is. It is. Yeah, I do call it that in the book. But anyway,
That's great.
so we get here in March. So quick, right? Urgent. And then in late May. So it's actually it's 3 years ago, about now. Again, in meditation, I'm told, urgent's used again. You need to urgently go to a doctor.
Uh-oh.
And I was like, okay.
That's a little vague, boys. Come on.
Yeah, no detail. And I'm
Right.
like, okay. So I find a country doctor on Google. He's got 5 stars, Craig Wholesome. And the beauty
Good
about
name. Wholesome. Yeah.
Yeah, the beauty about living somewhere like this is you can see a doctor right away. So I literally saw him the next day. And what do doctors do? They listen to your heart right
Okay.
out of the gate.
Sure.
So he does. He looks gravely concerned. He said, "Regan, you've got a very loud murmur. Something is wrong." And he said, "We got to get you scheduled for an echocardiogram as quickly as possible." And I was like, "What's that?" It's an ultrasound of the heart.
Okay.
So, so the ultrasound was the following day. And then the next day, I learned I was dying.
My goodness. Wow.
Yeah, I had a congenital birth defect. My aortic valve was born with 2 cusps instead of 3. So it had worked really hard and had become highly calcified. And the only solution to my
Emergency
problem
surgery.
was open heart surgery. Yeah, to replace my valve. And the reason I was called home is Barnes Hospital in St. Louis, where I was born. That's part of Washington University School of Medicine, one of the best med schools in the country. Just happens to be one of the best places in the United States for the surgery I needed. And so my surgeon,
That's why you're getting all these urgents.
yeah.
Right.
And then Ralph Damiano, who runs all of cardiothoracic surgery at Barnes, was my surgeon. And it was on a Friday morning. And I was cleared from the ICU the following morning, which never happens. And I was home by Tuesday. And come Tuesday, the surgeon comes to see me. He'd already told my kids and my husband this. But he said, you know, Regan, there is no clinical explanation of you. Clinically, there's no explanation of how you were alive prior to this. It was the worst aortic valve he'd ever seen. Typically, you've got like a $50 for blood to flow through the valve.
Okay.
And mine was less than the diameter of a Q-tip stick. So like a
Wow.
toothpick.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
And so I said in response, I said, do you believe in Jesus Christ? He said, I do. I said, well, that's the only explanation I have. And I'm not a Christian, but I love Jesus.
Sure.
Not that there's anything wrong with being a Christian. It's just not my thing. Anyway, months later, after I'm almost dying of complications post-surgery, but I knew I was going to be okay because it's like, if I was supposed to be dead before, like, why would I die now? So I was hopeful.
Right.
But
okay.
I had severe pericarditis, severe heart inflammation. I knew I was all better on the winter solstice, so that's December. The surgery was in July. I'm finally healed in December. And then come April, I go to a funeral for a dear friend of mine who was a Christian mystic and minister who died suddenly. And anyway, so I go to Florida for his memorial, and it's on Palm Sunday, and I have to look up on Google, like, what is Palm Sunday? Anyway,
I remember
kind of a
Palm
big
Sunday.
day,
Yeah,
big
yeah,
day
yeah.
for Jesus.
Right.
So anyway, I'm going to put my suit on, a bathing suit, after the service. I just want to hang out at the beach, and my husband had sweetly bought me a swimsuit with a zipper to protect my scar
Okay.
from the sun. And yeah, so I'm in the bathroom. I don't have any clothes on. And I look at myself. I'm like, my scar looks different. And then I get closer to the mirror because my eyes aren't great. And sure enough, I don't know when it happened, but the scar on my chest is in the shape of a crucifix.
Wow.
Yeah. So when I showed it to my surgeon, he wept. And he
My
said, well,
goodness.
he's like, well, Regan, that's another miracle. It's a vertical cut.
Right. There's no crossbar on a vertical cut. Where did that come from? Interesting. Wow.
Yes. So I'm a walking billboard for Jesus. And I will say, you know, when I was facing death, I had no fear because of all of the quote unquote paranormal things that I've known. I know that I'm eternal and I know that I'm divine. There's really nothing to worry about. So I had no fear. I mean, my poor family, they were scared, but I wasn't. I was fully surrendered, and I was drawn to the teachings of Jesus during that time.
Wow. Interesting.
So I just, read the Gnostic Gospels. I like to read the things that didn't make it into the book because like even today, the things that are censored are probably the truth.
So the Gnostic Gospel, is that where all the Christian mystics wrote down what they knew?
Yeah.
Okay.
And
that sounds neat. Now I want to find. Wait, I'm going to write that down real quick. It's called the Gnostic Gospel. Can I Google that? Gnostic.
Yes, you can. And they were hidden in a jar and found in the desert in Egypt in 1945. So I like the idea that somewhere along the line, these early followers of Jesus felt the need to protect things.
Say that again.
These early followers of Jesus chose to hide these sacraments from destruction.
Okay.
If you know, anyway. So,
Well,
Jesus,
there was a lot of persecution, like a lot.
well, of the early followers of Jesus,
Right.
And
It was
then-
like sport, kill Christians. Yes, I get it.
well, and then in the Council of Nicaea, the Roman Emperor
Sort of took over
basically
Christianity.
all these,
Yeah.
early religious leaders to define what Christianity is. Anyway, James, Jesus's brother, and Mary Magdalene were really the ones early on truly sharing his teachings. And, anyway, their perspective didn't make it into the book.
Right.
Yeah. So I don't know how we got on that tangent, but I was very comforted by his teaching, which is, pretty simple. Love God with all your heart and love your neighbor as yourself.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Whenever I think of like
be ethical.
Yeah, Christian people that like inspire me are like people like Mother Teresa, right? Like her favorite thing to do in the world was to like comfort someone dying, right?
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
and because she got it when she was there, and she was so in love with Jesus, she could see Jesus's face in that dying person. Right.
Yeah.
And that was her love. That was her love. Right. And she wanted to see that face as many times as she could. I was like, that's so sad and amazing at the same time. Yeah. Once you get to that place, though, where she lived, like life and death kind of take on different kinds of connotations. Yeah.
Absolutely. And post awakening, when I felt nothing but love, I think I had the felt sense of what Jesus was trying to teach. And one of the things that happened the morning I woke up in my hotel suite in San Francisco at this meeting, I just wanted to talk to my mom. And I couldn't reach her. And the only person I was able to reach by phone was my stepdad.
Okay.
Who had been this epicenter of violence and emotional abuse. And I had nothing but love for him and told him so. And said, the only reason we exist is to learn how to love.
It's true.
There's literally no other purpose.
Right.
And anyway, he drops the phone because I hear it scuffle around, and he comes back and he said, well, Regan, I don't have an explanation for this, but a golden eagle just landed on the crabapple tree in the backyard. And then there's a long pause. He comes back. He said, now there's a red fox looking up at this eagle. And he's Comanche, bloodlines in Sicilian and a Scorpio. Those are all, kind of intense.
Okay.
and an atheist.
Wait a minute. Wow. That's a big list of things. So
but
that
what
means
happened,
like the Comanche stuff, all of that is still in the background, right? Even if he purports not to believe it.
It's gotta be. It's gotta be.
Yeah.
But anyway, from that moment, and he's still alive, he's in his mid-80s, he's been a kind and gentle man.
Wow.
So that energetic transference, right, what I was holding and what I said to him changed him. And, I changed too.
That's amazing. That's fun. Now I want to read the book.
Good.
I know we're getting like mostly highlights, but it's an amazing story. There's got to be some I know we're not getting all of the detail, but that's amazing. So talk a little bit about like what you got going on at the center there, where you can come work on your shit.
So
Because it sounds amazing. Like talk a little bit about so you can go and is there a hot spring that we can take a hot bath? Okay, darn it.
No, that would be fun. No, it's deep in the earth. I don't understand geothermal wells, but anyway, I just have one and I appreciate it. And I don't have a water bill, which I really appreciate.
Yeah. It's a well. That's great.
Yeah. So So I teach, yoga to my community, and I don't charge them.
Right.
I've got an upcoming workshop on Memorial Day weekend, kind of workshopping 10 fundamental poses in yoga, helping my students really understand proper alignment. And then I'm sharing the four purifications breath work. So my teacher, my yoga teacher, I have over 500 hours of training. But anyway, her name is Hana Muse. Wonderful, wonderful
What a
human.
great name.
And she was trained by Baba Hari Das. So there's really two Indian yogis who came to the United States to bring yogic science to the West. One was Yogananda, and the other was Baba Hari Das. And so that's my teacher's teacher.
Wow.
And he developed the four purifications. So I'm going to share that breathwork practice in this workshop. I teach heart math here from time to time. I try to do one retreat here a year. I have my best friend's a medicine woman, and she comes and holds plant medicine ceremony here. Can't really, be too public about that. But,
Sure.
that's important work. So she's coming in June. And yeah, and I have private clients, both yoga clients that come for customized, support, and what I call inner life. I do inner life coaching. So that's for people that want to do some deep healing and commit to a spiritual practice. So they seek me out for that kind of support. So that's what goes on here.
And working on your shit.
I'm working on your shit, right?
Even if you don't think you have shit, you've got shit. Yes.
Oh God, run! If anybody that is in your life that says they don't have a shadow, run
for sure.
Yeah. So it's this beautiful. Here, I can turn this around so you can see it.
Whoa! Wow! Yeah, that's amazing. Wow, good work.
Thanks. Yeah, I designed it from bed when I was so sick with pericarditis. I made all the design decisions, furnishings, everything from my phone. Worked out.
While you were recovering from an inflamed heart.
Yeah, I was like, well, maybe I was an interior designer in a previous life.
Wow. That's amazing.
But it is beautiful here. And it's it's funny, when we lived south of Santa Cruz in Aptos, right on the bay, and beautiful, beautiful place. But, during the lockdowns, all the rooms were accounted for, right? So there was nowhere to go. And I said to my husband,
no common areas, huh? Okay.
I'm like, I need a she shed. Can you go to Home Depot? And, I need a place to pray and to meditate. I need to get away from you guys. So anyway, now the joke is I've got this, 3,000 square foot
she shed.
now.
Well, you kind of overachieved on your she shed, but good for you. Congratulations.
Yeah. I do have, I am a recovering overachiever, that's for sure. But this is, my safe place. So I walk down the driveway every day, and I burn Palo Santo, and I pray as I walk the perimeter. And then I, sit down for meditation and practice yoga and do my thing.
Can you have is there a campfire in the yard?
Funny that you should mention that. I have at the back of my lawn, which you can't see, so about an acre down, or maybe an acre and a half down. This whole place was built on limestone.
Okay.
And when the former owner was creating this garage, because this building used to be like a man cave party building, it smelled like cigarettes.
Okay.
And it was a place where he parked his capital equipment.
Okay.
So anyway, when he did that, all this native limestone, all these boulders were excavated. And he created at the back of the lawn this amazing place where the floor of it is the limestone, but then around in a big circle are all these huge ancient limestone boulders.
You got your own Stonehenge back there.
So it's my place for ceremony,
stone
but it's
circle.
also
Wow.
a place to, have a very safe fire because of all
Right.
the stone.
That's
So
amazing.
to answer your question, yeah.
Yes. You have to. See, so I grew up in Upper Peninsula, Michigan, and there's
Oh, I
there's
love
more trees than people.
Michigan is a gorgeous
Yeah.
place. We
Yeah. Yeah.
vacationed there last
Right.
summer. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah. So my parents had like 40 acres of hardwood forest. Well, it was actually my dad and brother, but they sold it because my dad's getting old, and all
Aw.
the hunting stopped. So they're just like, well, we could have a big chunk of money in the bank instead of all these bills. Anyway, but I missed the place. It had a
bet.
lot of memories and really nice. There was a well, and there was a what do they call those things? Your own personal sewage,
Oh, septic. Yeah, that's what
septic
we
system.
have.
Yeah,
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 we have
yeah.
septic
So,
here.
well, to say all of that, they were like solar panels away from being off the grid, right?
Mhm.
So, I'm always liking that. Yeah, someday I will get out of rural or suburbia, and maybe I'll just visit. I'll come see you.
Yeah, you can do that.
And your retreat
Sure.
center in Missouri.
Yeah.
It's only an hour away from St. Louis, so that means it's not so hard to get to.
No, and it's funny, in Santa Cruz after 2 o'clock, it took an hour to drive 12 miles.
Right. Yeah.
People like my friends in St. Louis are like, "Oh, you're so far away." I'm like, I literally, in my corporate career, working in Silicon Valley, one of the startups that I was, in a leadership position for was in San Francisco. So I literally would drive almost 3 hours one way to work.
Yeah.
So people are, yeah.
I
They're like,
get
"Oh,
it.
you're so
Yeah.
far away." It's like, oh my
Anytime
God.
you're in a California city, you don't measure anything by miles, it's by hours. Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's definitely a different life. And
California's great, but there's a lot of not great
yeah.
there too. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not so great anymore.
I get it.
It's not so great. I mean, San Francisco is like the zombie apocalypse.
Yeah, yeah. I just recently took a BART ride and it was not pretty. It was not pretty.
Yeah, I mean, if anybody wants to see what real progressive democratic politics do to a place,
Yeah. It's not pretty.
come and visit.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure Gavin's going to run for president. Come visit first.
Isn't that where like you can just walk into any given grocery store and fill up your cart and leave and they won't do anything about it?
Absolutely.
That's crazy.
So Union Square, which was just a fantastic place to shop.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
it's like a desert.
Oh
The,
man.
the retailers have,
Right, right. Everybody's just pulled out. Right. It's crazy.
yeah, and everybody's like just higher than kites on fentanyl. There's no, criminalization of anything.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
And that's progressive. That's like empathetic. It's like, what? No, there's this,
boundaries are good.
right. Yeah. So anyway, I'm going to visit. A dear friend is turning 60 at the end of June. And usually, I go home now once a year back to California. And typically, I miss it. And then I go and I'm there and I'm like, I don't miss this. I have to remember this.
Right.
It's not anything I miss.
Right.
It's like I've done this editorial process in my head.
There's like pieces of it that you miss.
Right.
Right. But then you're in traffic and you're like, oh, right.
Well, and just, just the open air drug markets. And it's just a hot mess and so beautiful.
Right. It's
And
a
I miss the
beautiful, hot
food,
mess.
it's like the bread basket of America.
Have you been to Los Angeles lately?
No.
So I escaped Vegas a couple of times during lockdown, and I had already lived in Los Angeles area for like too long, like you,
Oh, okay.
And then we migrated to Vegas in 2017. But during lockdown, we just wanted, like you, I wanted to get out of town, right? Mm-hmm. So my wife booked us a hotel just for like an overnight, like 1 or 2 nights in our old neighborhood. And just driving around, like we already knew that LA was bad, right? But like lockdown didn't make it any better. It made it like a lot worse, you know, just like the homeless encampments were everywhere, like everywhere. Like, and then like all of the street parking, like they were people living in cars. I was like, wow, like everywhere. It was, I get it. It's like California is going to seed, as they say. It needs a strong hand, I guess.
Yeah, something needs to change.
Right.
For sure. But I mean, I loved it until I didn't, you know? I mean, I watched it change.
Yeah. Yep. All right.
Yeah.
Well, we should wrap this up. We've been talking an hour and it was great.
Okay.
It was great.
Good,
So
good.
Regan Caruthers, regancaruthers.com. So how can folks best get in touch with you? And what's the name of your book?
Yeah, so my book is called Tragic Magic.
Right.
That can be found on Amazon and Barnes & Noble as an ebook or paperback.
Okay.
ReganCaruthers.com has, other content that I hope is inspiring, some, kind of accessible practices.
Okay.
To
start
adopt.
Working on your shit.
And then there's a way to schedule a discovery call with me around the inner life coaching.
Okay.
And that discovery call is, complimentary. I don't have a lot of clients on purpose because I don't want to do that all day long. I want to be in my garden and, do other things. And then probably, if they just want to get to know me and my message beyond the book, connect with me on social. So I try to do 4 or 5 videos a week.
Oh, nice.
On Instagram.
Okay.
So that's, that's a way. Follow me on Instagram or Facebook, because the way I do it with the video, it goes to both places.
Sure.
Yeah, so that would be how.
Easy peasy.
ReganCaruthers.com, my book, Tragic Magic, and connecting with me on social media.
Awesome. Regan Caruthers, this has been a blast. Thank you so much for sharing your story. I appreciate it. That was fun. And thanks for finding me. That's pretty rare. Just out of the blue, you email me.
My team. So thank them. They were trying to find resonant podcasts because I just love this medium. I think it's so much fun.
Right.
And it's just a great way to get the message out, which is, learn how to embody divine love and heal from your life experience, and learn how to be sovereign and learn how to heed the call, right? So, And I appreciate you having me. So thank you.
You're welcome. It was a pleasure. All right. You have a good day.
Okay, you too.
Thanks for taking the time to ride along with us on another episode of Vroom Vroom Veer. For podcast info and show notes, be sure to head over to vvveer.com. That's VVER.com. Man, that's fun to say. And we'll catch up with you next time here on Vroom Vroom Veer.